is going to go. So Jerry's going to join us in just a second here. We'll have the reveal at 4:00. Jerry Reynolds, thank you so much. My apologies for the short notice. We're supposed to have the Tasmanian Slovenian on, and he couldn't make it. So we're asking you to pinch it. So thank you.
Oh yeah, well I don't know if I can fill in for Beno. I mean, one of my all-time favorites. There's no doubt about that, and certainly one of those guys that probably a little better player than he's given credit for, in my opinion. Had a nice career.
Yeah, he ended up like honorable mention on our list, Jer. So he was in the top 50, didn't make the top 40, and as you say, you could make a strong argument that he should have been in that top 40.
Oh, I think you could. Definitely. Just like I say, when you get into those lists, I mean, it's always a case where some guys probably aren't appreciated as much as they should be, and others get a little bit overrated.
Mm-hmm. And I know you've heard some of it. I know you have better things to do than listen to everything that that we say. Have you? Do you have any thoughts you'd be willing to share on what you've heard so far? I know some of the stuff is personal. You may not want to say that guy shouldn't have been on there, but any thoughts so far on how the list has gone, Jerry?
Well, yeah, just some of the early things. I mean, I was glad to see Spud Webb getting treated up there pretty well.
Number 23.
Very, very much deserved. Yeah. I think Isaiah Thomas as well, even though, I mean, really, obviously Isaiah at his best with Boston, but talent-wise, may had a better one season than any King or former King. But so it's two really unique guys and good guys. So that's always good. And I thought I just look at from talent, even though he didn't play long. I mean, Danny Ainge is one of the 20 best players to ever play for the Kings. I mean, he just was. And as much as I love Cisco, he might have been a little overrated there, maybe. I don't know. But so, anyway, I'm glad I didn't do it because, to tell you the truth, is there's so many guys I really like.
Yeah.
And got to know. So it would have probably hurt me a little bit, leaving somebody off or whatever.
One of my favorite things about the list, Jerry, I had this guy on. I had him lower, but I'm just delighted that people can remember Eddie Johnson enough to rank him 19th. He was a top 20 King. What do you think of that?
Well, he should have been. Yes, absolutely. Great career. Obviously had very good years with the Kings. Kansas City as well as Sacramento should never have been traded. That's for sure. Pro's pro. Just top of the line. Any kind of just ratings, not just on talent, but as a teammate and a player, I think it'd be probably top 5. But
wow.
So Eddie, that's probably about right. Like I say, that's where I think with Danny, just definitely underrated because he just wasn't there long enough, and I don't think people really appreciated how really good he was, and there's a reason he was a key guy on 2 world champions.
Yeah, I had Danny higher than 40, and I think part of it was that's when I was first actually started covering the team. I was aware of him earlier, but I got to see him play a lot. So I think, like you say, it was really impressive. Didn't he put up twin nickels against the Warriors once down there at 55 or something against the Warriors?
I know he had 45.
45, okay.
Yeah, he had 45, and I mean, he had several 40-point games. I mean, he was one of those guys that, he was a 2-time All-Star, I think, as well. It really proves it. And then, of course, near the end of his career, he was still a terrific off-the-bench player, a key sub for Rick Adelman's final or final team, and then also with Phoenix, the team that lost to Jordan's Bulls. I mean, so like I say, there's no doubt in my mind he talent-wise is way higher. I mean, than certain guys that maybe are a little more in people's memories.
The great Jerry Reynolds, nice enough to join us here. Beno was supposed to be on, couldn't make it, and Jerry helping us out as we go over
Well, I've been back covered for Bano for years, so yeah, why wouldn't I?
Yeah, appreciate that. What do you think of this guy, number 14? He ended up higher on the list than I thought he would. I'm not saying he shouldn't be that high, but I believe you traded for him, or you were coaching when they traded for him, I believe. Wayman Tisdale. Tell us about Tizzy and how good he was.
I did coach him. Bill Russell traded for him, and he was a delight to coach, and definitely should be up there. I mean, you couldn't, he's one of those guys that get 20 every night on anybody. I mean, the so-called great defenders of that time, Buck Williams, who he was a great defender. I mean, he couldn't stop Tizzy. I mean, Tizzy put that big butt on him, and they couldn't get around him. He just plant them behind him, and then had the Tizzy flip, and that's all she wrote. But Tizzy, get you 20 every night against anybody.
Mm-hmm. And I know I'm bouncing around here, but going back to some of the original Kings I mentioned, Eddie Johnson, Tank Thompson solidly at number 30. And I know I told the story when we mentioned him when he was announced. I told the story of how you tried to run a play for him, but he couldn't run it.
Yeah, with bless Tank's heart. I mean, he was the ultimate team guy, but he did finally get his feelings hurt because we run so much for Eddie and Mike Woodson and of course Reggie, and of course Reggie would run his own plays sometime too. But anyway, Tank said, "Why don't you have you don't have any plays for me?" So I said, "Okay, we'll put some in," and of course Eddie and those guys really pulling for him. But
we called it Texas, right?
We called it Texas because he went to Texas, thought that helped him remember it, and so we spent the whole shoot around the game for the Indiana Pacer game at night, and I said we'll run it the first play of the game, and so Reggie's going to go down and called Texas, and Tank screwed it up, and missed the play up, and of course, guys getting on him a little bit, and we did it again, and he messed it up again. So we called timeout, and Eddie and Reggie and myself were all, I think, what the hell? That's your play. Yeah, I don't want no plays. Don't call no more plays for me.
One more before we let you go, Jared. Again, appreciate your time. One of the questions that Jay had on the ballot was, who's the most underrated King? There's a lot of great answers. How underrated do you think Otis Thorpe is these days when people look back at how good he was?
Well, he'd be one of them.
Yeah.
That's for sure. He was a terrific young power forward. Maybe at the time the Kings had him, other than Karl Malone, I don't know who was better. And, went on to play for a world champion team with the Rockets, and then of course we got him back near the end of his career. He was part of the trade to get Weber, but talent-wise there again, I mean, it'd be hard for me not to see him in the top 10, really, just on pure talent and very coachable. Yeah, we just for some reason decided didn't want to pay him, so.
I know that wasn't your decision, Jerry.
It was not. Like I said, you can save some money and throw that out on the floor. That's not going to rebound. And so, anyway.
I was going to ask, Legend, how and what reason did Otis Thorpe be traded? But I think you kind of answered it, and I don't want to dive too much deeper than that. So I ask another question. Who, throughout the history, because you've been here throughout the history, Sacramento King, it broke your heart to see him leave Sacramento?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, there's several. I mean, certainly Isaiah Thomas would be, right at the top of the list. I think, it might sound a little funny to some people, but there's two guys who didn't play a lot, but Pete Chilcutt and Jim Less. Just wonderful team guys, and got it, and were fun to be around, and that sort of thing, and you knew they were going to do well in life, that sort of thing. I think Harold Presley was a terrific and of course Francisco. I mean, I could go on and on, but I mean, there were some guys that, I'll tell you one that really hurt too was Ed Pinckney.
Really?
Ed Pinckney, yeah, because he was such a delight to coach and all, and traded him to Boston as part of the Danny Ainge deal, and he didn't want to go, and obviously as a championship caliber team, he really liked it here, contrary to what a lot of the media would try to point out sometimes. But Bill Russell had made the trade, and I had to tell him, and and he broke down in tears. And I did too.
Wow.
It was, yeah. Those are the things that it's all part of the business, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we all forget that people are part of the business.
How difficult was it, Jerry, when you guys had to part ways with Jay Will? And I know it worked out for everybody, really, but how difficult was that?
Well, it's probably more difficult for me because I just love watching him, and I mean, I knew he was probably needed to be traded for his own value, which it worked out for him, and he said that. But, I mean, for him to go on and play on a world champion, be a starter. But he said, like Jay Will told him, he said the Hubie Brown experience in Memphis really, kind of shaped him up.
Uh-huh.
Because I think Hubie kind of pointed out a few things that Jay Will needed to point it out.
Hubie will do that.
And so, as young players, sometimes they I always said most players almost need traded. I mean, very few are so good that it's going to work out for them wherever they're drafted or wherever they land. And Jay Will was one of those guys who made it work. And of course, Bibby, I don't honestly think Bibby was as talented as Jay Will, but he was a better fit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Before we let you go, we have the top 10 today, and I honestly haven't seen it. I'm anticipating it's going to come down to Webb or Mitch at the very top. Is it clear in your mind, is Webb the best, or could you make a case that Mitch should be up there?
I could make a case, but I would take Webb.
Yeah.
I think Webb's been the best player, in Kings history. The best player on a real legitimate national world championship team, and on the best team that probably didn't win a championship. So, where Mitch didn't have anywhere near the help. But I'd take Webb. Yeah. And so obviously some guys on this current team are going to end up being ranked really high. I mean, De'Aaron and Sabonis should be very high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll find out at 4:00. Jerry, again, I apologize for the short notice. Thanks so much for helping us out. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Great. Nice talking to you guys as always. Take care.
All right, Jerry Reynolds. And then Bano, we'll have to move Bano to next week. And I think I might have heard from Phantom as well, Jay. So.
The Phantom's in the building.
No, Phantom is doing soccer at ARC. He's unavailable. What? Yeah.
We'll get him next week.
Okay.
Tell him Jay wants him, not you.
I will.